Postseason baseball is coming to a close. After a long season, we finally know who will be meeting each other at the World Series this Friday. Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Maya Bieling, joined by Dan Studer and Jake Gold. The Dodgers secured the National League pennant in an exciting game last night, officially ending the season for the Mets. New York still has the Yankees, though, as they secured the American League pennant on Saturday against the Guardians. So obviously, my dream of a Subway Series World Series is over, but I did have hope until the very end. The Mets kept fighting when no one expected them to. So Dan, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the NLCS ending last night?
Yeah, I feel like it was a really, really fun and exciting series for reasons completely different from the American League, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. The last three games, all winners determined, I shouldn't say determined, the winner of the last three games of the series, each scoring 10 runs. Got to give a shout out, though, to the Dodgers pitching games 1 and 3 with shutouts. It felt like every game in the series was a blowout. The NLCS MVP, Tommy Edman, acquired at the deadline. He truly earned that MVP honor. A batting average of .407, 11 RBIs. He really deserved it. But you can't talk about the you can't talk about the Dodgers without talking about Shohei Ohtani. With an RBI single last night, he now has 18 hits in his last 23 at-bats with runners in scoring position. I can't remember the last time that I've seen somebody put up video game numbers like that. Truly incredible what we're seeing from the one-of-a-kind unicorn. As for the New York Mets, they're eliminated, but they're going to be going home with their heads still high. I don't think I shouldn't say anybody. I don't think a lot of people had the Mets going as far as they did, but yet here they are. Pete Alonso with his 3-run home run to eliminate the Brewers in that winner-take-all in Game 3 in the wild card. Francisco Lindor with his grand slam in Game 4 in the divisional series against the Phillies. And if there's a certain Met that I really want to tip my cap to, Mark Vientos played over 100 games for the first time in his young career, batting at an OPS just shy of 1, a batting average of over 300, and he led Mets this postseason with 5 home runs, including one that he had last night. While the Mets still have their backs to the wall, Vientos still finds a way to put the ball over the fence and cut the Dodgers' lead down to 3 runs.
Like you said, Dan, the Mets have absolutely nothing to hang their heads about. They were showing signs late in that series of the 1969 Miracle Mets with Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver, a couple of the greats. As much as it pains me to say, the Mets are going to be good, and they're going to be good next season as well. But even more impressively, the Dodgers were absolutely incredible. The amount of runs scored in every game, every single team had every single winner had at least 7 runs scored in every game. That was probably the most interesting fact to me. And also, I think Tommy Edman with the 11 RBIs, that is just something that a lot of MLB teams wish they could have, is someone who can really put the ball in play with runners and score in position. I would draw a comparison to Luis Arias. He's another one who's very consistent. But, I just think coming up with this World Series, I think the Dodgers are set up really well.
Yeah, and as you're saying, I think a key difference between these two teams is that the Dodgers were able to capitalize on when they had runners in scoring position, and the Mets just were not able to do that. There was many times this series that the Mets left people stranded on base going into the next inning, which was unfortunate for them, but now we'll be seeing the Dodgers in the World Series. But now transferring over to the American League, this is the first time since 2009 that the Yankees are heading into a World Series. So let's talk about it, recap the series between the Yankees and the Guardians.
Yeah, so the Yankees coming out on top, 4-1. It was an incredible series. I want to talk about how Aaron Judge is getting his groove, though. That was a key part of this series, and how Aaron Judge, he will be a key factor in this World Series. He was a key factor late in the series against Cleveland. He never really got the chances to go and be Aaron Judge, being intentionally walked. And he had a few struggles with his strikeouts, but it's baseball. But yeah, just his amazing regular season, 54 home runs, I believe. And Aaron Judge is just an incredible baseball player. But another player I would like to highlight is Juan Soto. Growing up around DC, got to watch him play for the Nats. He's just such an amazing ball player, bat to ball every time. He was a key player in that series. And don't discredit the Guardians of what they did. These teams were very evenly matched. The Yankees coming in with 94 wins and the Guardians coming in with 92. It was a very, very exciting and very good series to watch. Just a great baseball series.
Yeah, I agree. Like I mentioned earlier, this series was just as exciting for the exact opposite reasons that we saw from the National League. In the American League Championship Series, no game had a larger run differential than 3. We had 2 games go to extra innings, one of which ended with a walk-off for the Cleveland Guardians. And guys, I'm not going to talk. I could probably talk about Game 3 for 10 minutes, but luckily for you two, I won't. But we need to talk about that. I mean, the Yankees are trailing late in the game when Aaron Judge comes up, hits a home run to tie it. And then Giancarlo Stanton, back-to-back to give the Yankees the lead. But Cleveland doesn't just roll over and die. No. Down to their last out against Luke Weaver, Aaron Boone's new trusted closer in the playoffs, John Kenzie Noel with a huge game-tying 2-run home run. And then, of course, against Clay Holmes in the bottom of the 10th.
Big Christmas.
David Fry actually had that walk-off 2-run home run.
Right.
What I think really cost the Guardians this series was their bullpen. Emmanuel Clase specifically, after having a phenomenal regular season that's going to most likely earn him American League Reliever of the Year honors, and he'll probably even get a few Cy Young votes too. He didn't do that well in the playoffs, especially against the Yankees. 2 1/3 innings, gave up 4 earned runs on 7 hits. That's an ERA of over 15. Obviously, he's the one that gave up the 2 home runs to Judge and to Stanton, and then he's also the one that gave up the 2 runs in the top of the 8th in the next game in Game 4. Giancarlo Stanton is your MVP, and just like Tommy Edman, super deserving of it. He didn't have the batting average that Edman had. Stanton's average only at .222. One of the reasons why was because Stanton in that series only had 4 hits, but get this, guys, 4 hits, all homers. He also matched Edman's count at 11 RBIs with an OPS of over 1.2. Juan Soto, just like you mentioned, hard to talk about the Yankees without talking about him. If I'm Hal Steinbrenner, I'm making sure that he's a Yankee next year.
Yeah, and so obviously the Yankees and the Dodgers came out on top, so it's going to be a Broadway versus Hollywood World Series this year. These two teams have a lot of history together in postseason play, so what do you guys ultimately think is going to be key for whichever team wins?
Well, for me, I think for both teams, it's going to come to pitching. From the Dodgers, their starters, you're really going to want consistency. The Dodgers had a little bit of an issue. Guys like Walker Buehler and Jack Flaherty, they would have one start where they were absolutely lights out, but then the next start they're giving up either 6 earned runs or 8 earned runs in way less innings that they had. The Yankees, on the other hand, for the starters, you need longevity. By the end of that Guardians series, the bullpen was totally taxed. Probably a big reason why Luke Weaver gave up that home run to Big Christmas. For the bullpen, though, preserve the lead. Don't cough it up.
Yeah. This series is going to be, it is exactly what the MLB bargained for. It's the 2 biggest teams, 2 monsters, second time in MLB history that 2 players with 50-plus home runs are playing each other in the World Series. And I'm so excited for it. Shohei Ohtani, if he can do what he did in the NLCS, I think that would be one of the keys. But another key for me would be the starting pitching. the starting pitching projections, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Garrett Cole, Rodon, Bueller, all of those guys had very similar seasons to where a lot of injuries and then a lot of success later in the year.
Yeah, and these are two of the best teams offensively in the MLB, so it will be a very exciting series to watch. The World Series is just days away, and both teams will be gearing up for Game 1 at Dodger Stadium this week. For now, this is all we have on the MLB. For Dan Stuber and Jake Gold, I'm Maya Bieling. Have a great night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.